Welcome to the Dr. Lynn Santiago podcast. Since a young child, Dr. Lynn has had an unquenchable passion for psychology, concepts of self, and personal growth. Dr. Lynn interviews guests who answer the question, are we always becoming? Her guests include psychologists, mental health counselors, life coaches, spiritual counselors, consultants, authors who have been on a quest for knowledge and now dedicate their lives to helping others in the process of becoming. Be inspired by the personal becoming stories told by guests who share the risks and the challenges, the successes and the letdowns, the joys and the heartaches they each experience while on their own becoming journey. Now here's your host, Dr. Lynn Santiago.
Hi everybody, welcome back. It has been quite a while since I last conducted an interview and recorded an episode. I have, my husband had been pretty ill, and so my life had been put on a shelf for a while so that I could be with him as he was going through his recovery and healing. But I am happy to say that he is feeling so much better, and I am able to pick back up some of the pieces of my life. And this podcast has been one of those things that I just love to do. So I'm so happy to be able to do it. I had a very odd experience back in the end of November, early December, and it's an experience that I can only say was spiritual in nature. And through some research and talking to people and just learning more and more and more about things like Kundalini awakening and spiritual awakening, I was led to Simona Dharma Devi. She will explain what her names mean right in the beginning of the interview. Dharma is an anthropologist. She has a master's degree in anthropology of theater and dance. And she has made it her life focus to learn about classical sacred dance methods. She has a course called Kundalini Rhythms Dance course. And that's what I wound up being attracted to. And the last thing I had ever imagined that I would be doing on Wednesday morning by the end of the day was be talking to somebody, this beautiful soul, all the way in Italy, about classical dance. Dharma and I have talked several times since then. I have been taking some of her courses. She just is beautiful, and she teaches belly dancing, which she says is the oldest form of dance. She says that she believes that dance is the ultimate healing form, and I was very surprised to hear her say that she believes we can change our stories through dance. And, a lot of our guests have talked about changing the stories, and I've talked about changing the stories, those narratives that we tell ourselves, and they contain false beliefs, self-limiting beliefs. We tell ourselves and other people over and over and over again, and how it's important to change the narrative. She talks about how dance is a way to change the narrative, and how you can change your vibration from sad to joy. So we're going to hear more about that. I am, again, so excited to be able to interview Dharma. She's going to talk about meditation and yoga. She was a Kundalini yoga instructor for a while. She's going to tell her becoming story. And I know that you are going to just be captivated by this beautiful soul. Without further ado. Hi, Simona.
Hi, Lena.
I am so thrilled that you are here. I just can't wait to be able to have this conversation with you. You have, I believe, so much to offer, and to offer to listeners your perspective and your experiences. It's just wonderful. I want to introduce you to Willow. Willow is my psychology intern. And so she's with me
as an observer, just to kind of see how this process goes. Okay. So first off, Simona Dharma Devi. I was asking you, do you go by Simona? Do you go by Dharma? Do you go by Simona Dharma? Tell us, let's start with just your name.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm very, very, very excited about this opportunity, and I feel very honored to be here and be part of your project. Well, my name, I will make it short because it's a long story. Well, Simona is my birth name, the name that my family gave me. I'm Italian, so Simona is an Italian name. Raised and born in Italy, so 100% Italian. Dharma came into my life as a name when I started to practice Kundalini Yoga, a practice that I don't do anymore. And it was a name given to me by my guru, Yogi Bhajan, who is not longer my guru. Okay. But the name meant something very important to me in terms of finding my path as a spiritual leader or spiritual teacher. And also it marked my very first age and youth into my yoga practice, into becoming professional in this work. When I went to India for my Indian classical dance training, instead we were talking with my teacher, and Devi, the third part of my name, came along. So for a very long time, I just used Dharma Devi. Dharma described my connection with the yoga community, while Devi was more connected to my Indian classical dance training. And when I separated from the Kundalini Yoga community, I decided to incorporate my birth name, Simona, to remind myself where I'm coming from, my roots, and it really grounds me into my very original power as a human being. That's why it's Simona Dharma Devi.
It's honoring all the parts of you, or sort of all those phases in your life, and that you're one person, but you incorporate this much bigger whole. Mm-hmm. Right? That's beautiful. I like to go by Lynn Angela because of the same thing. I want to honor that Angela piece. And so this podcast I have divided into two kinds of interviews or episodes, and this is a quest episode. A quest episode is when I have a guest who I know has really focused their life work on a quest for knowledge, on a quest for experience, on something that they know they're going to be able to give back, that they're going to be able to help others in their healing, in their understanding of themselves, in their personal growth, in their spiritual growth, in their sexual growth, right? Mm-hmm. So there's all that whole in their physical growth, this wholeness of the question of like, are we always becoming? And becoming incorporates all of this. And so I believe that your experiences and the kind of the educational pursuit that you made makes you like the perfect guest for a quest episode, because I know you have so much. But I'm going to start just like I ask this question to every guest. Are we always becoming?
Yes. Yes, to me, we are always becoming, and these concepts of becoming is even more true to me today, after I went through some challenges during the past 3-4 years of my life. Mm-hmm. And I arrived into this moment of my life, but I don't have the feel of arriving anywhere. I feel this feeling, this sentiment of continuously expanding, and so continuously becoming into something as almost like a matryoshka. There is always a deepest layer into the little doll.
Mm-hmm.
I remember because, it was something that I used to play when I was a child. And I remember that I loved to get into the little one inside the matryoshka. And I was really disappointed when I couldn't open it anymore.
Oh.
To continue to open it and toward the infinite, basically. So for me, becoming is essential because I keep going, growing and expanding and reaching out as I continue to reach in. So there is this.
Because when you were using that example, that it was like the layers going in that are becoming, is that there is this going in process. But there may be at the original point or at some earlier point, the growing out process, and then this growing in process again.
I think that they happen at the same time because while you are going in within yourself, touching and getting closer to your essence as a human being, as a spiritual being, at the same time, if we talk about light, for example, the more you go in, the more the light expands, because the more you go in, the more you get into your essence. And your essence is true, is pure, and the pure energy is light. So it expands, it radiates out. So there is going within expansion at the same time. Mm-hmm. That's why.
Yeah, that is, that's that piece, that spiritual piece that I think that I have really started to focus on much more in the last few months, actually. I mean, I can relate to being very spiritual since a child and growing into knowing that I'm on my own quest and that my path is meant to be, I have this purpose. But I had been, I think, neglecting my spiritual side, my spiritual self. And that's how I was so glad to be able to meet with you. That was just my spirit guides guiding me directly to you. This beautiful soul in Italy.
Yeah, at the moment I'm in Italy. Even what you just said, the fact that you listen to your spiritual guide, here there is a cat. The fact that you listen to your spiritual guide, it's a spiritual connection. So you are not neglecting anything. Being a spiritual teacher and a spiritual artist, I meet a lot of people that have no connection with yoga or have never done meditation before, but they are incredibly spiritual. Yeah. So to me, spirituality is really this deep connection with your being, to who you are, right, profoundly. That's it. So if you are a religious person, then you connect to your religious belief system. If you are a yogini or a yogi, you practice your yoga. I was talking about this with my Indian classical dance teacher here in Italy. We had a conference as well. And I practice Kuchipudi, and Kuchipudi is one of the classical dance style in India, and they are deeply connected to the religious aspect of that culture. But she was saying, you don't need to be Hindu to practice, to dance. And yet you can create a dance that is sacred, is connected to the divine, but the divine can be anything that you believe in. Yes. It doesn't need to be a Hindu god or goddess. It just needs to be something that shifts your presence into the presence of the divine. So, spirituality can be anything.
You were saying about how we can I guess resonate would be a good word, toward all kinds of different practices to connect to our spiritual self. And you said that, you don't have to be somebody who's practicing yoga. Yoga is not the way. It may be one of the ways, but it's not the way, right? Mm-hmm. And I have never done yoga. I think I did yoga twice in my whole life. Seriously. And
how did it go?
I loved it, but I made that promise, like, I'm going to do more of this. And that, that didn't happen. And even meditation, I have not been one that would, sit down and say, okay, I'm going to meditate for 10, 20, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I don't know. Some people more than that. I was never like that. Although I did practice a lot of mindfulness. Is your way one of your ways of connecting to that spiritual self, and then what you teach others come through dance? Let's learn more about that.
More about dance, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my soul is a dancer. My soul has been dancing forever, since has been created by the source, has been dancing. My mom also says you were doing two things in my womb. You were dancing and meditating. I could feel it. Dance is really something. I remember the first time I tried to dance, I was 6 years old and I was at school, and a ballet teacher came to show a class, and I just fell in love with ballet, like right there on the spot, and to the point that at the end of the class I kept going dancing. The teacher had to come to take me out of the room.
It's over now.
It's over, yes. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to dance and take classes until I was a little bit older, like around 14 or 15. And I feel anyway blessed because I kept going dancing on my own in my room, and I used dance to just shift the attention from the real world and bring me to another dimension. And I think that's also the reason why I started to do theater quite early in life. I was 16 when I first acted in a play in theater. And dance is to me is the ultimate healing form, and it has the ability to, at least for me, to shift my frequency, my mental vibration. And from a state of sadness, for example, it brings me right into a state of joy. And when this became very clear to me, I started to explore this component of my dance experience. And I discovered that really dance helped me to change my stories. So those beliefs that were holding me back, pushing me down, put me in the position to attract, to know the right situation and the right people into my life. And dancing just by moving and intentionally putting different stories, so describing a different stories through my movements, I was able to change the story. And the more I danced, the more the stories changed. And that's how I changed my life in these past 3 years. I start dancing. And literally, I started with Zumba. I'm not kidding. When I was completely disconnected from my body, and I was really into these deep state of depression because things weren't going as I wanted them to go.
Okay.
I really realized my energy was completely upside down. And the first call, my spirit guide told me, you had to move the body. And I remember something that an old Chinese doctor told me once while I was still living in Malibu in California. And he said, yeah, yoga is good for you, but dance is even better. You needed to move that energy. You're a passionate woman. You need to put that energy into something creative. You need to dance. Mm-hmm. And when I really heard the spirit guide saying, just get up from your bed and dance, I literally went on YouTube and I put the first Zumba class I could find. Wow. And it was a Zumba Oriental dance class. So
Oh,
I had an amazing moment of liberation, and I burst into laugh and tears at the same time.
hmm.
That's the moment when I started to recuperate all my studies, all my university studies, all my research, all the content of my thesis, and I put it into application, and I came up with my method of healing, which is Kundalini Rhythms Dance. And it's something that it's continuously becoming to return to the becoming concept.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have a master's in anthropology
Of
dance.
and dance, yes.
So explain what that is. That is so interesting. I had never heard of that before.
Yeah, another ways to put it, I think in English is anthropology of performance, but it means performance is such a broad concept. I started by studying history of dance and history of theater. The faculty I was enrolled in was a multidisciplinary faculty and in the field of art. So it included cinema and history of arts. And I decided to focus on theater and dance. I was in a theater company, I was dancing professionally, and I was acting professionally or semi-professionally. And so studied dance and theater was just natural. And I remember after the first year, and that's when I met my Indian classical dance teacher, who is still my teacher today. And I'm talking about 14, no, even more, 20 years ago. That's when I started to understand that there was a little bit more to dance than just entertainment. And I started to explore other fields such as vibrational arts, where you use really your vibration or your emotions to sing, to act, to dance, or to paint. And right at the same moment, I met one of my professors, and he was the professor of anthropology of dance, which was how to use dance or theater as an educational tool, as a rehabilitative tool for people that have been somehow, or for whatever reason, excluded by society. So we can say inmates, for example, or women who have been abused and they are now in a shelter and they need to return into society. And the realities in Italy are those, or like addict people or sober people that need something to reintegrate into a regular life. So I found that incredibly inspiring. And there was also an interesting component, because there is a period in theater which is called a social theater, where theater, the actors went out of the theater. They didn't act into theater, and they acted right in the middle of the street. So they were actors, audience, and the audience were actors as well. They were involved, and they mostly embraced topics such as a social, political topic. Or
Was it spontaneous?
well, some of them, I used to do some of that. Some was spontaneous, some was prepared. So let's say that the structure was prepared, like, some sort of guidelines. And then the rest was quite spontaneous, because you never know how people react.
Right. So you're really going from the now, from moment to
Yeah.
moment, and how you're experiencing internally and expressing that. That's
The anthropology studies the human behavior and how humans related to one another and to the environment. And so it was really a combination of the study of the anthropology and the arts of dance and theater. So it was very interesting field to be in.
Yeah. And you have so much knowledge about ancient dance.
Mm-hmm.
And along with that knowledge comes the social piece. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not just, oh, this is how people danced back then. There is this connection to the society and to the
Yes.
religion and to the beliefs and even gender role kinds of things, right? So gender norms. And we're talking about like thousands of years ago, right?
Yeah. The first signs of dance comes from the Neolithical time. So way, way back. And dance was a shamanic act. So it was a way to connect to the spirit. And it was a healing performance. It was like a community ritual. It wasn't something like where the entire community participated. It wasn't just something like you had two dancers or a group of dancers dancing and the other people assist. It was an entire, the community was entirely involved into the ritual. There are no really clear information about what could have happened at the time, because of course, neolithically speaking, we don't have anything written. The only thing that we have are the signs on the rocks. But basically what we have, the understanding is that dance was seen as a form of expression that could connect the two the world of human alive and the world of the spirit, so the other dimension. Basically, it seems that they believed in two dimensions: the here and now, and the other beyond the rock. And they use the rock to really represent the moment of passage into the other dimension. So there are these figurines that they are represented in half body out and the other half basically cut in two parts. And so one part of the body is in this dimension and the other one, you cannot see it, is in the other dimension.
Yes. That's interesting. And it kind of goes along with the whole concept of duality, right? And non-duality. Mm-hmm. It's like you're not just one, you could be one side or the other side, but here you're like, there's this kind of oneness.
Yes.
So, can you share a little bit about sacred feminine? Is that, and the goddess, how does that all come together with how you dance and what you teach?
Yeah, well, it came together because when I came to the US, I moved to Los Angeles first, and it's a very new age city, and there are all these fairy things in Los Angeles. And I first started to get in touch with this feminine energy, sacred feminine, and everybody was talking about this principle. However, I didn't really understand what they were talking about, and it was too much. Remember that I was really deep into the Kundalini yoga community, so it was pretty male oriented. But I started to meet some people, especially traveling throughout the entire United States, and I started to get a little bit interested in these sacred feminine, and I started to explore it. And that's when I started to get more interested. It's not that before I didn't know about the goddesses of the Hindu pantheon, because I was an Indian classical dancer, so I needed to know about them. And I was really into Greek and Roman mythology, so I knew about the goddesses, but it was something different. The sacred feminine is a principle that connects us to our most creative part of ourself. And this is what I perceive as the goddess energy, as the sacred feminine energy. The problem with the sacred feminine energy, at least for me, was that I was seen as something opposed to the male energy and something as overpowering the male energy, which someone considers to be right, and it's fine. I do respect that point, but I didn't feel like the sacred feminine should have been something overpowering something else. And I started to investigate, and I went a little bit more into the Hindu mythology, because they explain this polarity quite well. I'm not talking about the Hinduism as a culture, but as history, as a philosophy. So it's something slightly different if you go into that path. So the sacred feminine is that principle that turn on the most powerful creative force we can possibly have hidden within ourselves. And it is something that turns on only when we recognize ourselves and when we recognize our gift. And it's a force that can give us grace, but also incredible stability and vision and motion, action into realizing what we want to realize. It to me, it is not opposed to the sacred masculine. Instead, it is a force that can heal the male energy and merge with the sacred male energy, sacred masculine energy. So they are one complementary to the other. And it's not just about the sacred feminine is better and the male masculine energy is not. They are all necessary, but they work differently in our essence, because one gives us, the sacred masculine, for example, gives us more focus, more kind of stability, analytical mind, and also more inspiration, we can say. In the Hindu philosophy, for example, Shiva or Vishnu or Brahma, they are the gods that they give the idea of something. But in order to realize and manifest the idea, they needed their own respective Shaktis. So we need Parvati, Lakshmi, and Saraswati. That with their energy, with the sacred feminine energy, they manifest the idea conceived by the masculine energy.
So it's like that, the idea with then that creative piece.
Yes. And it has nothing to do with the gender. This is very, very important. It has nothing to do with the gender we are born with or we identify with, because we all have sacred masculine and sacred feminine, and we needed to heal these two principles and the relationship we have with both of them.
Because would you, I mean, I don't know if you would agree that even though you say it's not about gender, it seems to me that society has created that division in what is masculine and what is feminine, and you are only one or the other. And I know that that is really changing with gender neutrality and all of that coming up with the younger generation. But that's not quite the same when we're talking about kind of that inner, we use the word energy, but it's like a force.
Yes.
Right? Because I will say to clients, anger energy, you got this anger energy, right? It's like, it's energy, but what does that really mean, right? It's like, is it something?
That's a force.
Is it something you feel?
That's actually a force. The anger energy is could be one of the most creative force, and at the same time could be also one of the most destructive. It depends really what you use. There is a goddess in the Hindu pantheon which is deeply misunderstood, who is a Kali. Kali is known for being the destroyer, the bringer of tears. She's the terrible one. So even her figurine is terrible. You can barely look at it. However, she's actually the goddess of compassion, the goddess of enlightenment, the goddess that brings you from the dark place into the light, where the light is understanding, is knowledge. And this is important because in the Hindu tradition, in the yoga tradition, enlightenment is equal to knowledge. It's not like your brain started to lighten up and,
Right.
you get
Light
all
bulb.
light. No, it's knowledge, because knowledge is really, you shift your mind perception from a place of ignorance to a place of knowledge.
Yes.
The gender in our society has been separated for convenience. Men do that and women do that. But if you look at men, a man cannot just think all day. They have to do something. They have to perform something. So they needed to have the two polarities in harmony to be, to have a fulfilling life.
Yes.
And women is the same. It cannot just, in fact, women that do only one thing. They not all of them, but some of them do not have a fulfilling life, and they feel it, and they're not happy about it. So we need both. So these two principles do not fit the categories where we have put men and women.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't match because we have both.
Right.
Some of us have a more sacred feminine than sacred masculine, but still we have both.
Well, absolutely. And even if we go and look at even psychological theories, I think about Jung, right? And he talks about the masculine and feminine. So, and he has some Eastern, the word, influence? No. I'm lost for the word. He has studied, he was very much a spiritualist as well. And so, but he's a personality theorist in the field of psychology. And that's part of his belief, is about kind of this wholeness, and it's splinters. And then as we are growing or becoming, there's that force. It's called all kinds of different things in psychology, that then it becomes a whole again. And the masculine feminine is definitely part of that.
Yes.
So it's interesting how it kind of falls along. And one of the other things that you said, which I loved, was about how you use dance to change your stories. I mean, that is amazing, because pretty much every guest that I talk to, especially Quest guests, will refer to the stories that we tell ourselves, the narratives that we tell ourselves, and the effect of those narratives, the effect of those stories or self-limiting beliefs on how we feel and how we then respond in the world, right? And how we make decisions in the world. So it's like, and there's all kinds of even therapy interventions or perspectives around that whole idea. So to hear you say that you can use dance to change the story, and how powerful that is, because anybody can just get up and dance, right? You said, well, if you're in sadness, you get up and move, and you can bring yourself to joy just really in just a few minutes. Yes,
you can do that. Absolutely. I used to do it with Zumba. I'm not kidding. I'm really not kidding. I was doing it with Zumba, and I was having fun, and I remember really just burst into this laugh of joy, and that's enough to shift at least your frequency. And when you shift your frequency, your vibration, you're also kind of pushed into start to work on the narrative or the stories and start to change them, because you cannot change the stories from a place of depression or sadness, because you don't have enough traction to pull you out from that place. At least that was for me, that was my experience. I needed to shift my perception of reality, and that was my classes, Zumba, Oriental dance, and then I started to take again another style of Indian classical dance that was more on the discipline, it was more like going back to the physical body after neglecting the physical body for a very long time because I needed to be spiritual, and really focusing on returning to the physical body, embody, integrate my energy, my spiritual experience into the physical body, and enjoy it. Really feel this joy. And from there, move forward and move on from where I was.
There's like sort of this period of time where we call it depression, but sometimes depression is not a bad thing. It's kind of, it's the way what we tell ourselves about it. It could be a period where we are kind of disconnecting from what was, and we're, grieving some losses.
It was grieving,
and
yes.
We're doing what's necessary in order to move, to continue our becoming story. It's sort of like this little place on the path that you sit and you stay, and you just stay there as long as you need to, and you do what you need to do so that you can get that energy back to then continue on the path.
Yes.
So I know you have a special interest in women and the like women power and sisterhood, and that you have an experience that kind of led you there. Can you share about that?
Yeah, the experience that led me there wasn't a positive experience. Karmically speaking, I suffered a sort of a betrayal by women, and it's something that I brought into my life right now, into this current life, not right now. Right now, the narrative has changed, thank God. But it came because I always wanted to be in the company of other women. I have always looked for women in power that could inspire me. My first yoga teacher was a woman. She was amazing, a splendid human being. I will remember her for the rest of my life. But after her, the experience that I had with women, not all of them, of course, but those that I have chosen to be my guidance, my guide, my mentors, I wasn't that lucky. So even business collaboration with other women didn't turn out to be that great. So when I had to really stop and refocus, I had to really work on my self-esteem first, self-worth, understanding who I was, because I couldn't ask others to respect me if I wasn't the one not respecting myself, not honoring my gift, and not honoring my own personal power, my creativity. And so by observing what I was doing wrong, starting from me, I wasn't saying you are wrong. I was saying, okay, let's observe what's not vibrating right, and it's putting me in this situation repeatedly, like one after the other, even close experience to one another, and it was getting really, really stressful. And that's the moment I understood that in order to be working with other women and supporting as well as support other women, I had to do a deep work on my self-worth, basically. And I started to empower myself, take my power back, because by following all other teachers and other women, I almost gave them the authority to tell me what was good and not good about myself. And that's the way how we lose power, because we always look for the confirmation. Am I doing right? Am I doing right? Is it right? And I remember the day when I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm doing right. It's fine. You walk your path, I walk mine, and I will understand myself what I have to do. And that was the magic choice. And it was a blessing moment for me, because I understood what I needed to shift, change the story I told myself. I took my power back, and I decided what was good for me and what wasn't, what I needed to focus on and what I needed to let go because it wasn't my strength.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to focus on my strength instead of to spend too much time on my weaknesses, on my flaws. Why do I have to waste my time on those things? They're no good, or it's, when I have time, maybe I will look into that. Which is not the same to say I don't take care of what needs to heal within myself. Those are two different things. If I'm no good in making pasta like my mom, I'm not making pasta. I ask my mom to do it, to make it for me. I'm not going to declare that I am a master pasta maker. I'm not going to do that, but I'm a very good dancer, so I'm going to use that. And I'm a very good teacher, and I'm going to focus on that.
I want to ask Willow if she has any questions, because she's been listening and you've said so many things, and I'm sure Willow's been going, what? Wait, what? So anything that you have heard that you would like to have a question that you want to clarify?
Sure. And both of you had brought it up, but you were talking about a spiritual guide. Is this a person for you? Is this a feeling for you? What does that entail?
Who goes first?
For me, I believe that it is spiritual, and that everybody has that ability to connect to spirit guides, and that everybody has spirit guides. It is a different way of thinking, I think, for many people. And I think for many people, that's kind of scary. I can recognize that has been something that's been part of myself for a very long time, even as a child. But I know because I was scared of it, I pushed it away. And going psychology was kind of like the safest route, because psyche is soul, and so in Greek, so there is still a connection there. But, it goes into this scientific kind of line versus that sense of connecting to something that's greater than yourself. And that's what it means to me. I don't know. What do you think?
It's the same thing. It's a sensation, is a kind of a guidance that you feel and perceive in your life. Mm-hmm. And it can have like a physical form. Sometimes you are led to people that are spiritual guides for you, or even guardian angel. I have several incarnated in this life, and I do recognize all of them. But for me, the connection with my spiritual guide is really the connection with the other dimension, and the disincarnated dimension. Mm-hmm. And it really is this a constant connection, is where I can go back to feel centered and feel supported. So yeah. Mm-hmm. And the way how I perceive it, it can be a feeling, or it can be also a thought. Yes. Sometimes vision. I have a really clear vision. It happens often when I'm dancing that I might enter in a state of a trance, and I have all of these in at the same moment. I have vision, I hear, I feel it.
Yeah. Yes. I think another way of looking at it too, for just to kind of understand it a little bit, is synchronicity, or the idea that, not everything is a coincidence, that there is this, kind of sense that you're being guided, or you're going down this path, and there's like these signposts that are saying, yep, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. Yeah. And then you may have this sense of, wait a minute, this, maybe I need to be turning down this road now. And
yeah.
And I think that I feel it. I think I experience that as a thought, and also just kind of moving, resonate. That's the word I like to use, resonate. Like what resonates with me. If I'm doing this and it resonates me, I'm in the right place. But it doesn't mean I'm going to stay there all the time. There's like something else. And then, there's a lot of things, but then there's this one thing that resonates with me. And I believe that that's part of spirit guides as well.
Yes.
I
I believe so too.
Yeah. And that's how I got to know Simona.
Yes.
Totally
That was
random. Total random. It was like the last thing I was expecting to do when I woke up that day. Was to reach out to somebody in Italy that and learn about sacred dancing and those kinds of things. So yeah. I don't know. Did that answer? You know me, Willow. I go blah, 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 blah. You ask one question, I'm all over the place.
I believe we got there. I believe I got my answer.
Okay. Have any other questions? Anything that come up for you?
No questions. Just I love hearing the story. I love hearing the quest, the motivations, where you're going, what's happening. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Simona has this just awesome becoming story. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you call this podcast Becoming, or that's the topic, because that's also the reason why I said immediately yes, because it really matched, it resonated with what I'm exploring and experiencing recently.
As far as recognizing that there's this becoming process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm definitely becoming, I don't know what, and I'm not interested, but I'm definitely becoming.
I like what you said. You wrote, and you just said it. It's like the becoming, that it's not awakened. Mm-hmm. It's like awakening. Means that it's this process that you don't get to this place and then you're this, fully awakened being. Yes,
in the what I wrote is in the yoga community, in the yoga practice, there is this belief that you have to become enlightened, and it's more like something that you reach, and you have reached the peak of the mountain, and that's your ultimate fulfillment. And I went by for about 30 years with that philosophy, with that thought in my mind, and the recent year has shown me that enlightenment is every single step that we take in our life every single day. It's a moment of enlightenment, because I challenge everyone to think that you don't have aha moment every single day. I do. Sometimes seriously? And those are moments of enlightenment where you really become more knowledgeable about a state of mind, a feeling that you are feeling, a sensation, or a topic that you are exploring. That's becoming enlightened, but it never stops. It continues. It's the Matryoshka was talking about at the beginning. As you go in, you expand out.
Right. Share with us. We've got to wrap up, but I want to give you some opportunity to talk about what you do and how people, the kind of the services that you provide in your way of reaching and healing and helping others become much more through their awakening.
Yes, thank you. Recently, my offering has changed, and I'm very, very happy for this change. I'm focusing mostly on dance, and using dance as a healing practice and transformative practice, as well as a joyful practice, and really to reconnect to the feminine energy, becoming more sensual and graceful, and really reconnect to the physical body at the same time, which is very, very important nowadays, because we are all out there and there is no really embodiment, and there is no energy integration, which is kind of, to me, dangerous, especially for the spiritual people. So we need embodiment and spiritual and energy integration. So I'm offering my major programs are sacred belly dance programs, where I teach belly dance with a sacred approach. Belly dance originated within the shamanic culture many years ago, and it's considered one of the oldest form of dance we have on planet Earth. So I'm focusing really on of course, the technique of belly dance, the creative aspect of belly dance, but also the healing and transformative aspect of this beautiful art form that really connects to our feminine energy in a very particular way. And it's open to men as well. I don't teach only to women. Of course, mostly are women, those that come to my classes, but it's open to men as well. And I have several programs, and they can, online, and when it will be possible, so in person. The other program, which is very dear to me, that really came to life after 20 years of research and practice and some other stuff. It's the Kundalini Rhythms Dance Facilitator Program, where I go into the sacred dance technique in depth. So I will teach technical stuff, spiritual stuff, energetic concepts behind the dance movements. And I have 3 courses, 3 levels, but the first one is the one that at the moment is active. And I'm actually starting a new one, a second group this coming March on the 25th. Mm-hmm. And it will be online for the time being, but I'm hoping to bring it in person as well.
Well, online is perfect because people can, I never would, have known you if it wasn't for, the Zoom and to be able to see what you do. So I think it's kind of amazing how something so kind of negative that has been so global has also opened up opportunities for connection. It's like there's a deconnection happening, right? It's like we're like in our homes or quarantine, but then there's this opportunity to connect anywhere you want to.
Yes, internet it's been magical, and especially for us that teaches this type of practice, it's been essential. And I love it because I'm really connected to people from all over the world, not just from the United States, but literally from everywhere. So it's amazing. Yes.
So that means that anybody who's interested in learning from you or participating in any of your programs, it doesn't matter where they are. Like you said, well, we'll start doing it in person, but who's going to go to Italy? Well, I can't. Maybe New York. I know you have some, maybe, but the Zoom just really opens it up for anybody, no matter where they are. It's beautiful.
Before the pandemic, I used to travel a lot. It's kind of tiring traveling, but it's so fulfilling, and I love to be on a plane and then traveling to places. And I often come to Florida, which I love. But still, yes, internet, it opens doors, it opens connections. And then eventually, if the occasion, the opportunity comes, so we can also meet in person, of course.
Yeah.
But internet has become a very good opportunity for us to be known and to share what we have to share.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So how can people reach you? Anybody, any of the listeners are really interested in knowing more about what you do or knowing more about what the courses that you teach, how can they reach you?
They can go to my website. I just put online my new Kundalini Rhythms website, and the name is www.kundalinirhythms with the S dance.com.
It's beautiful.
And yes, and in that website they can find me. They can find everything that I offer, and they can find me on social media. Kundalini Rhythms Dance on Facebook. And on Instagram, I'm Dharma Devi / Kundalini Rhythms.
Okay. So all of this is going to be on the description for the podcast, because there's a description, and all of your contact information will be there. I understand that you offering like a 10% off of a program for somebody who might sign up for
Yes.
some things.
Yes. If they mention your podcast, they will receive a 10% discount on my online classes, with the exclusion of the Patreon subscription, because they have, I do not administrate that account. Like I do not collect the money directly, they pay me. So I'm not the one in charge of everything, but anything else, my Sacred Belly Dance programs, both the recorded and the live one-on-one session, and the Kundalini Rhythms course that is coming up now in March, they can get the 10% off.
Great. So is there one last word or statement of wisdom that we can close with? And I know that there's going to be part 2 with this, because there are some of these things that you've talked about that I think we can just stay in do a whole podcast on just one of those things. We can talk about what that might be, but I definitely think there's there's a part 2 to this. But any last words of wisdom that we can end with?
Yeah, be yourself. It sounds stupid sometimes, but be yourself is really, really, really important. Trust yourself, believe in what you have in your gift, believe in what your heart is telling you, and do not ever doubt yourself, ever. That's, to me, is the key to my shift. Yes.
Right. Thank you so much.
To the core.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with us, and for sharing so much of your own becoming story. We will do
Thank you so much.
We will do part 2.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Dharma and listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed interviewing Dharma and learning so much more about her. I encourage you to take a look at her website. The information is in this episode's description. There you will learn much more about her, and you will also get some information about the courses that she is providing. For example, the Sacred Belly Dancing course and the Kundalini Rhythms Dance program. I want to wrap up with a quote from Wayne Dyer. He said, "When you dance, your purpose is not to get to a certain place on the floor. It's to enjoy each step along the way." Thank you. Keep that in mind as you continue down your path in your becoming journey this week. Thank you so much for listening. Please share with your friends and family if you enjoy what you are hearing here in this podcast. And follow me on Instagram at becoming_with_Dr. Lynn. That's DRLYNNE. Again, thank you.